Okay, I'm ready to get started. Bit of a slow start this morning. It's what happens when technology does not want to behave correctly. There we go. That should be better. None of my OBS stuff wanted to work, so I had to reset up 90% of my shit this morning. That's always fun. Then I had to restart my computer, restart my phone, because none of the cameras wanted to work. But we are ready to get started. What's up, Mr. Suit? How are you doing? XD was a little quick on me. Went with the commands just before I updated both of them. A little slow today, so that's what happens. Ooh, how'd you do that? That sounds rough. One more Discord channel I want to go to if I can find it. That one. Excuse me. I'm lucky enough I've yet to pull off any pads on anything, even desoldering. I haven't pulled up a pad yet. Yeah, build commands updated. Woo woo. Alright, so alright, let's go and get started here. Let's get out the keyboard. Oh. Yeah, for sure. I'll give some tips when I do some soldering. For sure. Let's see. Let's get the PCB out of the case. Yeah, let's just get this PCB. Let's use the PCB here. This guy will work. Oh shit, I got some. Where's my sticker? There's my sticker. Gotta pull out stickers. One sec. Pull out these lovely little stickers. Yeah, that gotta work. We'll get the OLED out. We'll be good. That should be good for now. So the marshmallows I got from 3D Keeps. They had extras after the round 2 group buy, and so they sold those a little while ago, and I was able to hop on some. But yeah, I was able to hop on those marshmallows from that. So that was really, really nice. Let's go ahead and test the PCB. I think I've tested this one. But let's go ahead and make sure, and let's do a quick test on it, shall we? Let's open up VIA. Yeah, the Sat75 is a bit on the expensive side, not gonna lie. Yep. When I bought it, it ran me with all the extras I purchased because I got extra plates and extra PCB. I think the total came out to be like 700 or something like that. So quite the expensive board, not gonna lie. Let's test this. I've already tested it once, but it's always good to test right before the build. I need to start getting in the habit of doing that more often. But I did test it when I got it, just in case there were any issues. But I want to be in the habit of doing this every stream. And so when we test a PCB, just for anyone that might be new, we basically just plug it in, open a program that has a key tester, and then we just go to that key tester and take a pair of tweezers and put it between the two spots for the switch pins. We'll do little holes here, and we just put it in here and squeeze, and it should register the key press. Normally we would have a another little option down here for like test matrix. That's usually what I use, but since this doesn't actually have the firmware installed on it yet, we don't have that option. The reason it doesn't have the firmware installed is because on the Sat75, if the OLED's not installed and the VIA firmware is on there with the OLED support, the firmware just won't work. So this allows us, without the firmware, to actually test the PCB. So once we get the OLED on there, we can flash it and then we can test it with the firmware just to make sure everything is good there. And I have a special firmware we're going to be using as well. It's not the stock firmware that Canon Key has. It's a slightly modified firmware, so I'm pretty excited for that. Go. Go. That's more spaces. That's Windows key. There we go. This key is not going to show up and register because it is a function key, and that won't register on here, which is fine. So everything is good with the PCB. We can go ahead and plug back in our keyboard for now and get rid of VIA. Why do you want it without the switches and keycaps? What's wrong with the switches and keycaps? They're good keycaps. They're decent keycaps. They're not, of course, as good a quality as like a GMK Olivia, but I mean, and the switches I'm sure are fine. I haven't heard any complaints about people who have tried them out, so. Okay, so next I want to go ahead and flash, I think. Do we want to flash? Yeah, let's go ahead and flash the PCB. Let's go and follow the guide and flash it real quick. And then we'll get the OLED installed. Got the dig, got QMK. So dig. Let's open up the dig. And let's open up QMK. The dig here. Close VIA for now. And we got QMK. All right. This should have just left it plugged in. But if you're worried like that the keycaps are clones of GMK Olivia, they're officially licensed replicas, so they got the permission from the designer. So if that's your concern with the keycaps, that's not really an issue. They have the designer's permission to use those keycaps, and they've worked with the designer to be able to do that. So let's go. We got Zadig open. I don't have a thing for Zadig, so we'll just open QMK. Alright, so for Zadig, we need to list all devices. Select STM32 bootloader. 32 bootloader. Select the WinUSB from the driver dropdown. Just click the replace driver button. You should see installing driver progress bar. Okay. Installing driver progress bar. That's taking quite a while. So how's everyone doing? I saw, so you missed the drop because you had school. Yeah, that's unfortunate. What, the drop was during the day on a weekday, right? Yeah. I was lucky enough I was able to, be able to, since I work from home, I didn't have any issues with work or anything. Can I show what they look like? The marshmallows or the milk cover keycaps? Because I have both. I have milk cover and I have marshmallows. So which one are you talking about? For real quick, we'll go over this guy. Those are marshmallows. And milk cover. Here. And then these are the milk cover keycaps. It's gonna be upside down because the thing, but this is milk cover. Can you get pink housings? I mean, you could buy a different switch and put the housings on it, but typically, no. Typically when you buy a switch, it's made with one color of housing. But theoretically, you could just go and buy a different switch and change the housings out, but then at that point you're not having the marshmallow switches anymore because the housings are probably going to be different material, so you don't have the same switch. It's a different switch basically. So man, Zadig is taking a while. I've never used it before, but hopefully it finishes up here soon. But I mean, so the thing about buying the Zoom 65 is, yes, it's a little more expensive because it comes with the switches and keycaps, but it's only $210 and you get switches and keycaps too. I mean, you can use those switches and those keycaps on a different build if you want, you know? There's no downside to having those, even if you're not going to use them on the Zoom. So it's still definitely worth it. Let me switch back to the other screen while we're doing this. So, I mean, really, it's not really that big a deal. Do I need to open did I need to open the dig in as administrator or something? Because this is taking quite a while. It was definitely taking a while. I don't think they have that many. I want to say it said they had like 200 units or something like that. Let me see what the email said again. It said, can't remember, maybe it didn't say. Maybe that was a different place that said how many units they had. Oh, over 100 units available. So we don't know exactly what that means. They're going to be having more. Wuke Studios plans to have more. I will say that. Okay. So the dig is really freaking out. Let me unplug this real quick. What is up with the dig? Why is it not working? It's not responding. Interesting. Let me plug my other keyboard in and we'll just close its task. Actually, I can do it from the taskbar. What PCB? The SAT or the Zoom? No, it does. It does. You just have to flash the VIA firmware on it. Because it, like I mentioned this earlier, so the VIA firmware doesn't come stock on it, and the reason for this is because the firmware has OLED support, right? The VIA firmware has the OLED support. Without the OLED installed, the firmware will not work. So they send it without the firmware, so you can still at least test out the PCB before doing the build. That way you can make sure the PCB is fine. Let's try running Zadig one more time. Install devices, SMT bootloader, reinstall driver. Hopefully it does not fail this time. Hopefully it doesn't time out and take super long. If it does, we'll just skip this part. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Thanks for joining. Question, when you built your SAT, did you use the dig on it? Because I just used Zadig and it said the installation failed. It took the full like 5 minutes till it timed out. Oh, there we go. This time it worked. Cool. Never mind. We're good. Oh, you use Mac. Okay. So that's irrelevant then. Got it. We're good though. We're good. All right. So let me find my firmware. There's my firmware. Let's open up the firmware. All right. We have QMK firmware. Flash. And then after this, we will get the OLED installed. Okay. Unplug it. I think we're gonna do the FR4 half plate with Marshmallows. And plug it in. It should register in QMK as Satisfaction75. Yes, it does. Beautiful. Excelente. That's exactly what we want to see. We will get rid of QMK. Don't need that guy on anymore. Ah, nice. There you go. There you go. Yeah, so I'm super torn. I was either going to do penguins on the brass plate or marshmallows on the FR4 half. I really want to use the FR4 half plate, so I'm like, you know what? We're just going to go with the marshmallows because I really want to use this FR4 half plate. I'm super excited to try it out, so. All right, let's get this stuff out. So we have to get these little spacers installed for the OLED. Yep. Yeah, I remember you were going to get the plate for the Thera. You haven't got yours yet, though? When did you order them? Didn't we order them around the same time? Or is it delayed a little bit because of you getting the Thera plate, too? Where did the screws go? What's the other one? One's right next to that. Two. I'm guessing it's that. Is there 3? Okay, I guess that makes sense. That does make sense. There's probably a lot for it. So when you built yours for the OLED, did you use 3 spacers? Because the build guide says 2, but I think that's probably for the round 1. I think this build guide is meant for like the round 1. Okay, that's what I thought. I think this build guide was meant for the round 1, and for the round 2 they added a 3rd. Gotcha, gotcha. All right. So that's there. Oh, it's not a zip. It's just a tear. Okay. And of course it didn't tear correctly. We'll try and go from this side. Of course that didn't tear correctly either. So we're just gonna do it like this and say screw it. Okay. Okay. Let's grab soldering foam real quick. Solder on top of this foam usually, just to make life easier. Let's put it on the correct direction though, shall we? That might be good. Yep. No, I didn't. I decided not to go with that guy. I was tempted. Don't get me wrong. I was tempted. I was definitely tempted. But I decided not to. Okay. Let's get out soldering stuff real fast. And give this knob a quick, give this OLED a quick solder. I was totally tempted to though, don't get me wrong, I was. But I was like, you know what, I'm good without it. I'm not too much caring about like special artisan type things. So the knob's not gonna bother me too much. You know, so. We're gonna solder this at a somewhat low temperature, just to make sure we get this at a good, just so we can make sure this is easy to straighten. Okay. Move this guy a little bit. My wife and I are also moving soon, so I'm kind of holding off on buying things for now, for the time being. Okay, that's kind of angled. So let's try and fix that. Still didn't quite get there. Not gonna lie, the part of my OLED looks a little crooked. Like not like the Like, it sits on there flat, it looks good flat, like that. But what looks crooked is the things we're soldering. That part looks crooked, and I don't know if that's because I need to push it this way a little bit or what. You know? Looks a little better. It's a little crooked. Almost there. There we go, that looks straight. That looks straight. Let's go and finish this guy off then. Yeah, I know, it sits flush, and then the little spikes look a little bit crooked to me, but you know what? It's okay. As long as it sits flush, as long as it works, it don't really matter to me, you know? Sitting where it's supposed to. Can't complain too much, right? Like. Right. Moment of truth. Let's pop open VIA again. And plug her in. Should recognize it. What do you know? Look at that. It's magic. Good old magic. Rid of this little guy real quick. This guy. Plug and pray. Yep. All right, so we're good there. Let's do one more quick key tester with now that the firmware is installed. then we'll be on our way to some stabilizer work. That's weird. It's on a weird layout. Let's change that layout. What the fudge is with that layout? um, um, oh, yours is like that too. Holy Jesus. That is funky. So yours is like that too? Huh. 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 Very interesting. Usually on the firmware, there's a, up here, there's a layouts tab, right? And this one does not have it. Yeah, that's, that's very unfortunate. It's a little weird. Let me look at one thing real quick. Okay, so... Alright, we'll just get back to the key tester. It's not a big deal. It's just more annoying than anything, honestly. Alright, all our keys work, so. All our keys work, so that's all that matters, right? That is super strange. That's annoying. Because setting up all your keys is going to be annoying as hell, right? Because you have to make sure you're setting the right one for the actual key press. That's annoying. Oh well. It works, that's all that matters, right? Let's go ahead and put on the little foam piece here. My foam piece is all retarded. Was yours like that too? Has like a dip in it? Was it supposed to have a dip in it? That's weird. Oh, did you? Was yours touching components when you put it on or something? Yo, what's up? How's it going? Thanks for coming by. Oh, that's actually hilarious. That is super hilarious. I've had a few people find me that way, but not very many. Mine at least doesn't look like it's touching, so we're just gonna try it without trimming, because it looks like it's good, for me at least. Sure we get it placed well. Oh, gotcha. Your first custom was like, okay, but at best, but need a 65%? Ah. What was your first one? Should be good. Doesn't look like it's touching anything. So I think we should be good. We'll at least give it a go and see how everything works. See if there's any shorting happening. Thing looks good from here. Does it? Because I'm looking at mine, and even if I squish it, it looks like it's not going to touch anything, at least the way I have it placed. Looks like it's far enough away. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. We'll know once it gets installed. We'll see how, you know, if anything shorts. If it does, we'll just trim it up a little bit. No big deal. No big deal. If it shorts, we just trim it. You know, it could just be all about placement. You know, you're not wrong. Could just be about that placement. Okay, it's an Amazon board that's hot swap, but it has Acco Vintage whites. Okay, I mean, Acco Vintage whites aren't bad. I've heard a lot of good things about them for budget switches and everything, so they're not a bad one. But yeah, depending on what your budgets are, there's a lot of good boards you could get for a 65%. There's a keyboard coming out. Have to look at the email again. In the next week or so, that's $210 for like the full thing. Yeah, on the 23rd, 11 a.m. you can get a there's the Zoom 65 that's got switches, keycaps for $210 in the board. Go to if you're on Discord at all, go to Canon Keys, their website, and join their Discord, and you can see some more information, or you can also look up the Zoom 65 and find some information about that guy. It's a 65% keyboard that comes with switches and keycaps. The other option is you can still get this guy here. This is the Bakaneko 65, also from Canon Keys. And it is still in stock, I believe. I think there's still a few in stock last I looked. Not very many, but they do have some. Yeah. And it's hot swap. And comes with the PCB plate, so all you would need is to buy switches and keycaps for it. And it's $135. Let me share the link with you in case you're interested in that guy. I actually really like this guy. It's a pretty good 65%, especially on a budget. Depending on what your budget is, of course. If your budget's higher, you can obviously probably find a better board like Mode 65 or Portal 65. But if you're trying to keep your budget down, this is a great board. All right, next it's time for stabilizers. What layout do I want to go with? Because the HypeKeyboards plate should support both the normal and larger bottom, the normal and the 7U bottom row. The Portal 65, if you look at that guy, those are still, last I looked, in stock. There's a limited amount of those guys. Yeah, he's still got navy, E-white, and E-lavender. So you can look at this guy as well if it's a little higher budget. And then the Mode 65, you can find that on Reddit, a place called Mech Market. Don't know if you've ever been to there, but that's a place people buy and sell keyboards. You can also easily find Mode 65s on there. But the Portal is basically a more expensive version of the Bakaneko, a little better. Don't introduce them to Mech Market. But that's the best place to go. It's not like I'm on there way too often. 5 R2. Let me check the reference. That's what I want to see. So the HypeKeyboards plate supports the 1.5, the 7U bottom row though, right? I'm trying to think if I want to go with the 6.25 or the 7U. Let's do 6.25, but we're going to go with the two 1.5Us on the right side because that is something we can do. Let's do that. You guys want to see one of the saddest things in the world? So, unfortunately, when I got this batch of Owlstabs, let me switch to the big guy. Everything's good except for the 6.25U wire. It's kind of shaped like a U. Yeah. A little unfortunate, but Owlstabs being amazing, they replaced it with a 80% kit to replace the 6.25U wire for me. Because that is obviously bent. There's no question on that one. There's little question on that guy. So we're going to steal the 6.25U wire out of this guy. Yeah, you can even see when it's in the tray. You can see how bad that is bent in the tray. Let's go ahead and put this guy back. We're going to use the clear guys. Since we're doing a white keyboard, I want to go ahead and use the clear. So we need this guy here. Come on out. There we go. Need 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, out of the kits I've bought, I've gotten 2 80% kits, and the wires, the 6.25 wires on those were perfect. And then I've gotten one of the 100% kits, and the 6.25U wire on that guy was bent. So 6, 7, 8. 8. Perfecto. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And the reason I got the 100% kit is, depending on the boards you're building, the 100% kit can actually fit enough, have enough stabilizers for 2 full builds. So I went with the 100% kit because I can get basically 2 builds out of the one kit. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. I have never looked at that one. That's an interesting board. I would honestly get the Bakaneko 65 over this, probably, depending on if you like the colors left in stock on the Bakaneko. But that looks interesting. Is this based on the Bakaneko? It looks like a similar frame and everything based on the Bakaneko. It's a gummy O-ring. Just might have a different typing angle. A little different case design. Interesting. Alright, so let's start with the stabilizers. Let me get some light turned on real quick. Just to give myself a little better lighting here. Yeah, Kachow. I would definitely consider the Bakaneko, as there are some in stock. It just depends on if the ones that are there are colors you like or not. So they do have limited stock. They do restock it as often as they can. But the Bakaneko a hard to beat value. And it's the same mounting style as the one you linked, the Cuckoo. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm gonna pronounce it, the Cuckoo. Same mounting style, gummy O-ring. When are they? Did they already do a sale for the Cuckoo, or is that something they're doing soon? Because I see it says it's also sold out on their website. Yeah, it might be. That's what it looks like to me. And very few things are kept as in-stock things in the keyboard hobby, unfortunately. So sometimes when you find a board, even it may have already had its sale and probably won't come back. There are some places trying to keep some boards in stock as much as possible, but some of your more mid-range to higher end ones aren't going to be like that. All the ones you're going to see kept in stock are on the more budget, still good boards, don't get me wrong, but they're on the budget end of the boards. And then for keycaps for today's build, I don't know if I put it on the build command, but we're going to be using the NicePBT Fuji. Yeah, let me walk you through the process of what I do. So essentially the way I'm going to do this, the way I do these is I typically do all the housings first. And then I'll go with the wires after I'm done with housing. So I'll just get just a little bit of lube on my brush, pretty standard stuff, and start with just getting a little bit inside. On this side, on this wall, and we'll get some on this wall, maybe go back for a little more. And we'll go ahead and do one of the wires too, just to go through it all at one time. And then I'll go back to the normal way, but got it on both sides. And then I do put some on each of these walls, so I do like to get it on all 4 walls. We are doing just a light amount. It does not need a lot. And this is just to remove any scratchiness that we may have. And then what I've started doing is I'll just take the stem and I'll just go ahead and put it in, and then I'll just hold the end of it and I'll lube that. That way it's not trying to fiddle with the housing to try and get the stem in correctly. And then I'll go on the 2 big sides, 2 really wide sides. We'll get lube on there, spread around evenly. And then the leftover just goes on the other 2 sides. Just with the leftover from those 2. That should take care of any scratchiness. So then on the wires, pretty small amount. I'll get a little more than I do on the housings, but still a small amount we'll get on the brush. And I'm just gonna brush it onto here, ultimately. Brush it onto there, try and get it even as much as possible. Maybe go back for a little more if I need it. But we're not trying to put overall too much on here, because if we don't get enough, we can just touch it up with a syringe. Make sure we get a nice even coat everywhere inside of the wire, which is the hardest part. Easily missed. So the crevices on the corners, a little bit on the edges. Make sure to get the elbow. Make sure it doesn't have to be perfectly even. I'd over even it, but make sure it's nice and even. And then we just put our stabilizer back together. The real magic tends to come when we're doing the testing of the stabilizers, and we throw some extra in there with the syringe. That's where a lot of the magic tends to end up happening. Especially for the spacebar. For the 2 unit guys, they're pretty good, usually just with their small amounts, especially with Owlstabs. It really does depend on the stab you're using. Some stabilizers you do need to add a little bit more lube than others. The Owlstabs have very small wire openings on the stem. They've, just like with TX, Stabies, stuff like that, they've done a smaller stem hole for the wire, just to try and help reduce the amount of rattle. So that does mean you need less lube. Okay. So that's just the basics of how I do my stabs. And like I said, I will go through and tune them with a syringe after I've installed them and tested them. That really is where the most of the magic will happen. Just because it's easier to take the syringe and inject a little bit of lube to finish it off than it is to try and get it perfect with the brush, you know, so. And when we start installing these on the board, I'll definitely go through my testing process and syringe lubing process as well. Just to make sure we cover all that information. But it really is just patience and practice. I'm still even getting better at my full lubing. Typing over a soldering station. I know that feeling. Yeah, I will clip. I'll go through and clip it. I'll clip all the I'll clip that little tutorial. Then we'll clip the syringe lubing thing too. I'll go through it later and clip it all. So those are some good clips to have. So are you building your second PCB right now? Is that what you're doing? Go. This tends to be the longest part of the build process, or one of the longest parts at least, is the stabilizer work. Legitimately, I've been half tempted to just forgo doing this and just do it all through syringe, since really you could just install the stabilizers and just lube them through the syringe. Oh, hey. I appreciate you clipping that. I think it's a good clip to have. No, I won't. That's a plastic from the stabilizers. Sometimes that comes off. Only thing I've noticed about Owlstabs is sometimes they have little pieces of plastic that are still stuck to the stabilizer. You can just pull them off. It's just more annoying than anything. I want to get stabies, but those always sell out because people are hot for those. So I've been liking the Owlstabs the one time I used them. So we're going with them for the SAT just because I want to get more experience using these, see if I really do like them. But as I was saying, you can literally just put stabilizers together without putting like any lube on them and just fully syringe lube them without an issue. It's not a bad thing to do. I just like doing this to help people learn how to lube stabilizers, and it's a good time just chatting with the viewers, chatting with people. Able to just chill for a little bit and chat. But sometimes when I do if I'm doing a build off stream for some reason, if I'm like rebuilding something, like a few times I did redo my Bakken Echo. or another hot swap board. I'll like redo the stabilizers if I need to off stream, and I'll just syringe lube them fully. Oh, you're just getting to where you can test the PCB? I'm fast. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm fast. I'm just used to what I'm doing. This is yes. You are typing, which does make it take some more time. I am distracting you a little bit, but I don't know how many boards you've built, but this is probably gotta be like my 30th board or something. I swear, it's probably gotta be my 30th build. So I've done enough builds that I'm just kind of able to quickly go through things for the most part. Hey Creamy, how's it going? You still need to try creamsicles? You do. Creamsicles are really good. I like them. I can't wait till I get my Glacier, because that's when I'm putting my creamsicles in. When my Glacier comes. Thoughts on the Q1? So the Q1 is not a bad board. It's a great budget 75% board. Just like the GMK Pro. Honestly, what it comes down to between the Q1 and the GMK Pro is if you want to get a bare bones kit or not. If you want something like with the if you want to go with like the Q1 that's, you know, got the switches and keycaps as well, it's definitely more worth going there than the GMK Pro. Since the GMK Pro, it's always just bare bones. You always have to add quite a bit extra to get the switches and the keycaps from them. But bare bones, at that point, it just becomes which one you like better. They're super similar boards. I don't know if the Q1 has different plate offerings like the GMK Pro. That I don't know. But they're both solid boards. I think the Q1's about $20 cheaper, 20 USD cheaper, bare bones, than the GMK Pro bare bones. So that can also be a factor. They both need some mods to them. The GMK Pro, theoretically, with the alu plate, it would need tape mod to make it sound better. If you want a little extra flex, you can do some extra gaskets on it. Or you can just go for the HypeKeyboards FR4 plate, which is the best plate for the GMK Pro in my opinion. And then the Q1, you have to, I think people call it like a force break mod, where you add little pieces of tape near the screw holes to remove some case ping. It's pretty much a required mod for that, because there's a ton of case ping if you don't do that. You can change the stabs on the GMK Pro too. It's no different. They both just use screw and stabs. So you can use Duroc V2s on both the Q1 and the GMK Pro. It's not like you're stuck with just the goat stabs on the GMK Pro. I haven't looked at them yet. I have heard good things. I have heard that they worked on their newer stabs to make them better. And one of the things about the GMK Pro is the stabs it comes with. Typically, the stabs aren't the whole problem. They put a pad under the stabs, and that is theoretically super mushy, because there's a ton of lube on that pad underneath it. So you actually take that pad off, and sometimes the stabilizers actually aren't that bad because they're not as over lubed as that padding is. That's actually what makes it feel mushy. GMK Pro plates are barely, no, they're not. They're perfectly compatible with other stabs. The very first version of the GMK Pro, the aluminum plate had an issue with some aftermarket stabs, but that was the first version. The newer ones, they don't have any issues. I used C3 equal stabs and Duroc V2s on my GMK Pro without issue on all plates. Aluminum, polycarb, everything. And then polycarb was always compatible with other stabs. The only ones that had any issue at any point was the alu plate. And they fixed that issue as well, because it was a plate issue, not a PCB or keyboard issue. So none of the GMK Pros you get from Glorious at this moment should have any issue with aftermarket stabs. I am not. I actually have not been using any pads under my stabilizers lately. I like the feeling without them. At one point I liked it, but lately I'm just like, you know what? It actually feels a little better without them. I will say I think there are some PCBs you have to use them on pads, because some PCBs have are super thin. And the only way to get the stabilizers to fit correctly, because if they're too thin, they'll have some wobble, is you do need that padding on it to thicken up that part. But that's only on like super thin PCBs. So I think that would be something like the Icky 68 round 2 PCBs that are like really thin. They're extra thin. I think those are something that you would need the pad on. But most PCBs, it'll only become a preference thing, honestly. Most PCBs is just going to be a preference thing, whether you like the pad on it or not. I started feeling like it was a little too mushy with the pad on it for my liking, so I've stopped using the padding. I did use padding for my initial tests on the V3 equals stabilizers, just because they came with it and I wanted to test everything, because I was kind of doing like a review when I used those as a build. So I wanted to test all the mods that came with everything, just to give everyone a full, review of every part of that stabilizer. But one of the cool things about the equals ones is they come with like 3 different thicknesses of pads. One of them literally feels almost like there's nothing there. It's thinner than it's as thin, if not thinner, than the sticky part of a Band-Aid, so. And this Owlstabs ones I think are pretty thin too, but I just prefer not using them ultimately. So. But then again, it just comes down to preference. Like, some people like doing the Band-Aid mod to their stabilizers. I see no point, because it's just covering up the lubing problem, ultimately. If you need to do a Band-Aid mod, that means you just need to lube it better. But some people like doing it because they can't get the lube on correctly enough to, prevent any rattles. So, that's just all down to your preference. Work out. I did see an interesting YouTube video on the Sat75. Someone did gasket mounting on it. Someone basically modded a little bit so they could use gaskets. I don't know exactly how they did it. I don't know if they just basically put the gaskets on there, but they basically did a gasket mount for the Sat75, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then there's what's called the, I think they called it the double quarter pounder with cheese mod. You can do to the Sat75 as well. I didn't watch the full video, so I didn't, like, it was only just like a sound test. He showed he did like a quick show of the mounting and then just did a sound test, which it pretty much sounded the same. And I do like top mount, so I'm not going to do any like gasket mounting mods to this, but it is kind of interesting. I want to look more into it, see if anyone else has done it, or see if that person has like a video explaining what they did, how they did it, how it feels. Because like I said, the one I did see was just a sound test, so. I was looking up different sound tests to see what switches I want to go with for today, what plate. But the double quarter pounder with cheese mod is basically, from what I understand, using extra O-rings. And you use like an extra O-ring and then another thicker O-ring on the bottom. And you have to get like an aftermarket screw in order to make it work correctly. But it's basically just adding, and I did that like I thought I would. There we go. It's basically just adding another, some extra O-rings to it to try and give it a little bit better sound and feel, which is kind of interesting. I'll have to see if I can find the video on that mod, the double quarter pounder with cheese, I believe is what it's called. I think it's one of Andy's videos, if I remember correctly. Because he got that mod. I don't remember who he got that mod from, but he made a video on it. All right. Get the stabs installed. Way. Okay. Oops, there. Only place for it to go, right? Can't go anywhere else. Yep. 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 That's where we go. Perfect. Cool. Always like to make sure I'm putting my stabs in the right spot. Let's go to the 100%. We need to grab our screws. I left those on the bottom of the packaging. There we go. The little wire pads are pretty interesting too. I haven't used those on it. I'm thinking I might give those a try sometime though. Kind of interesting. I use the little wire pads on the equals V3 stabs just to test them out as well. And they kind of cool. They don't really do a whole lot, I feel like, because I don't think the wire is really hitting the PCB too often, but it's kind of cool, I will say. Okay. Let's get our right bit on here. Go. So now we're just going to work on getting these stabs installed. I don't know why these screws are not staying on anymore. I don't know if it's these screws aren't magnetized very well or what. They don't like staying on my WoW stick anymore. I don't know if it's a bit issue or the Owlstabs screws or what, but let's go. Let me grab a different bit. Let me see if I can use a slightly bigger one if this one's too small. Go different bit. Look at that, it's a big one. That's really big. That one looks better size. Let's try this guy out. Let's leave that one out just in case. Maybe a slightly bigger bit will help. Unless the bit's too big, so we'll see. Might be holding better. We'll see how it gets. Didn't seem to screw in very well. I was working on using it on the spacebar one, so we'll see. We will see. Yeah, not liking that bit either. So we'll just stick with the smaller one. That bit's just spinning. As soon as it gets close to tight, it just sits there spinning, and I don't want to ruin the screws. So let's use this smaller bit. You know what? We're just gonna use the hand screwdriver instead of the wall stick. That bit's just annoying the hell out of me, so we're just gonna use the hand screwdriver instead of the wow stick. Save the wow stick for the case disassembly and assembly. Yep. This is the one thing I like about clip-in stabilizers. Not having to fuss with the screws is kind of nice. Not gonna lie. It's one of the reasons I want to get some TX stabs sometime, if I can ever find them. If I can ever catch a restock of them, because those are clipping if I remember correctly. And some boards you really have to use clip-ins for too. Most gummy O-ring boards basically have to use clip-ins for anyways. So it's always nice to have a few on hand. Right now when I need clip-ins, I just use cherry clip-ins with, I get them from Prevail, because they send theirs out with Duroc wires, which are really nice. Instead of the cherry wires, you get the Duroc wires, so. There we go. Once in a while I have to, when I'm going through these stabilizers, I always like to make sure I didn't put the stem in the housing wrong, so I'll always go through and just try and move them to make sure they move, because I've done that once in a while. Accidentally put the stem in the housing incorrectly. Go. Yeah, I'm tired, okay? I'm tired. Yeah, no worries. No worries. I was just about to get to the syringe part, but when I do that part, I'll clip it and you can always come back and check it out. But I appreciate you stopping by nonetheless. Have a great rest of your Saturday. And have a great weekend. See you on the next stream. Hopefully you can stop by another time. But alright, so got stabilizers in. Let's grab the plate. Jeez. Let's go ahead and put the rest of these in the bag. Get all our screws and washers in here for safekeeping, since we do need these for the other stabilizers when I want to use them. But yes, I said stabilizers very awkwardly. I do kind of fumble over my words sometimes. When I'm just rambling, I will stumble over words. Which that's what half of streaming is, just rambling on. At least for me. I tend to ramble. It's the only way I can keep the talking up on a stream is if I just ramble sometimes. Alright. Those can go with the stabilizer. Got our switches. Let's get our plate. Got my plates here. Carbon fiber FR4, half FR4. Perfect. There's the FR4 half. I want to grab the encoder knob real quick. Hey, what's up, XD? Welcome back. I want to grab the encoder knob just to make sure it goes on here without an issue with the plate, because the normal plate, and this should be designed with that same principle in mind, that this can go on after the plate's installed, but I just want to make sure that is the case, because we don't want to get everything soldered on and the rotary encoder not go on. That would suck. So this should theoretically go through here just like so. Without an issue. Like it does. Perfection. Cool. Make sure everything is straight to get in there. Perfect. Bend those two just a little bit. All right, so that will go on with this done, so we're not going to worry about it right now, because that makes soldering the switches a little annoying when you have the encoder knob already there. All right, so we're going to preload a few switches into the outside, because this has a little tighter, a little looser tolerances than the standard plate for the SAT, so it's not going to kind of sit up like the SAT plate would normally. So we're just going to go ahead and preload a few switches in some spots, the corners and the top, just to make installation a little easier. Middle up here. Get switch right there. Switch here. We'll get one more up here. This should be good for preloading. Go and get one in here too. Excellent. Perfect. Cool. So we should be able to get the rest in around the plate. And then yes, like I was mentioning, we are using the half plate for this, so this middle is completely open. So this is going to be pretty exciting stuff. I'm glad these switches fit in here very tightly. They fit into this PCB very firmly, which is very nice. So it's going to make soldering that nice and easy. That's spent. Can get this guy back out just for a little protection on the PCB. Go. Perfect. So how is everyone doing today? Hope everyone's having a great day. Hope everyone's enjoying the stream. We're going to get these switches installed, and then we will get to the soldering portion. Perfect. These I got from 3D Keeps. They had some extras from the round 2 group buy that shipped. And when they had the extras, I was able to snag some during the sale for them. So keep an eye out on 3D Keeps because they will have their round 3. Once their round 3 of the ThicThock Marshmallows ship, and they will have some extras of those too, I'm sure. That one got bent. Let's pull that guy out. That's bent. Hate accidentally bending a switch when you're doing a solder board. It's a little annoying. Because theoretically, it's really difficult to bend a switch when you're doing a solder board. Because you have so much room for the pins to go in. So I'm assuming this one was already partially bent. That's why it happened. Perfect. Yeah, this one should be fine. I don't feel like fixing the other one. The other one's really bent. The other one's majorly bent. I don't really feel like going and fixing that guy. Okay. They're in Australia, right? So that might take a hot minute. HypeKeyboards is in Australia, right? Let's go stepped caps. I like my stepped caps. All right, let's go ahead and test out the stabilizers now that we got all these switches in place to hold the plate in. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A few months probably. Plus, because a lot of it, I don't know how backed up they are, but the Australian post is super backed up. Last I ordered from Australia, that was before Christmas time, or around Thanksgiving time, Christmas time. They're pretty backed up, so that would also add to the delay if they still are. All right. That one. Perfect. Should be right. Yep. All right. Let me move this. It's making some noise. All right, that sounds pretty good. I actually don't think we need any syringe. Damn. Definitely firm. But yeah, everything sounds good to me. No worries, XD. No worries, you're good. What are you playing? What do you got going? Go. There we go. What's up, Raz? No, I actually don't have any artisan keycaps. I'm not a huge fan of artisan keycaps. I do have some technically on the way. There you go. I do have technically a few artisans that will be coming to me soon. One is for the Glacier 80. Since my Glacier was delayed, I'll be getting an artisan to make up for the delay. And then when the ThicThock artisans for the Milky Way 02 group buy get sent to them, I'll have that guy on the way. So I do have that metal artisan on the way at some point. I think we're gonna go that one, and I think that one makes sense. Other than that, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of artisan keycaps. I only have those because I really like the way the 02 one is designed. And then the Glacier 81 is just, I'm going to be getting it because my board was delayed. So they're just giving that to everyone whose units got delayed for the in-stock sale. And I do have another one on the way that is going to be for a review. That one, I don't know when that's going to get here. It's supposed to get here sometime next week, I think. I haven't checked the tracking lately, so you have to check the tracking on that. All right, so we need to get the 1.5 keys. So it'll be this two, just to make sure we have the spacing correct. I always like to verify my spacing's correct on the bottom row. And to do that, we should also verify the left side. So we'll grab these two, put them away, and leave that guy out. Since the bottom rows usually have a lot of space, I always like to double check we're doing everything correctly. Because there's a lot of different slots you can put the switches into, and you can easily put them in the wrong slots and have the wrong bottom row. That is not something I want, so make sure everything lines up correctly, which that one looks good. Cool. And this one should also be good. That lines up. Let's grab the space bar. Just to verify. Yep. That all lines up. Cool. All right. Next step is to insert the rest of the switches. So let's finish that up. So now we got the middle switches to put in all the plateless parts. Just grab the rest of our switches so we have all of them. I definitely won't lie. So like I said, I'm not a big fan of artisans. However, the 02 artisan that I have coming, I really like it. It looks pretty awesome. So I am very excited for that. And then the artisan I have coming next week that is for a review is also really awesome. It's going to fit one of my keycap sets perfectly based on the colors. So I will say I'm excited for those. But other than that, I'm not a huge fan of artisan keycaps. My wife does have a Pikachu artisan keycap for her Zigzag 60. But really just not the biggest fan of the artisans. I prefer for my keycaps to flow together in the way they're designed. So artisans kind of disrupt that a little bit. So replace that guy. There we go. Right. What about you, Raz? Do you got any artisans? How many artisans do you have? Anything cool? What about anyone else? Anyone else have any artisans they really like? I'm curious what people have that they use for artisans. Turn that down just here. Go. Okay. Just about to the point where we're going to start the soldering process. I will go kind of in depth on what I do for soldering because I believe someone asked for that as well. So we will do kind of an in-depth soldering look through. All right. That should be all the switches. Double check, make sure I haven't missed any. Quick look through. This is for the encoder, so we don't put a switch there. Cool. Thing looks good to me. Let's make sure we have no bent pins. Make sure the plate's sitting flush everywhere on the edges. Plate's looking good. Plate looks good. Double check we have no bent pins. Didn't feel anything, and I can usually feel them, but it's always good to double check. Perfect. Everything looks good to me. So make sure. Looked like that stab wasn't sitting right, but it looks fine. Looks like it's fine. No, you haven't missed the soldering yet. We haven't started. We just finished putting all the switches in. You have not missed the soldering at all. All right, I need to take a quick 5-minute break to grab a few things for the soldering. So I will be back in a couple of minutes. Go ahead and hang tight to the music and we'll get this thing soldered. All right, so we should be good to start the soldering process. So you are going to hear probably some noise from my little fan here, so please don't mind that. But we do have everything set up. Alright, so let me start with the soldering. We are gonna go, like I said, over how I do the soldering, just to help out owner of Mr. Suit, because I believe he did request that. So the way I do my soldering is we get our station set up. Of course, I'm going to set my soldering iron to 350. Yeah, let's do 350. I usually try and solder around 340 to 350. Then we're going to let the iron warm up. We're at 350 degrees. There we go. Then we're just going to take the iron, press it onto the pad and the leg at the same time, and put some solder in there. Voila. Let's go a little hot, a little more. Go, and done. Once you get the solder in there, you're going to let it heat up for an extra second or so just to flow around really well. That's really all there is to it. Oops. A little too much on that joint. There we go. When you push the solder onto the area, you want to push it not directly onto the soldering iron, but you basically want to press the solder against the pad and the switch pin at the same time, and that's going to melt the solder around the switch pin properly. Probably throw a little more onto that one. There we go. And that's really all there is to it. So let me know if you have any other questions, Mr. Suit. Because that's really all I have to go over. But other than that, we're just going to keep soldering this. So if you want me to show you on any of these other joints again, let me know. Other than that, you can just watch and kind of see the technique I'm talking about every time I do it on here. So, a couple of key points is you do want to go through and use the brass ball you have to clean off your soldering iron tip once in a while. That's just going to increase the longevity of your soldering iron tip. And for how much solder you want to get on there, you want to make sure the pad is covered. You don't want little parts of the pad peeking out. But you also don't want a big ball of solder on there either. That means you've done too much. Should look like what people say is it should basically look like a volcano. You should see a little bit of the tip of the switch pin sticking up over the solder. If you have a big ball of solder, that means you've done too much. Or you have a cold joint. If you have like solder in a ball and some of the pad is exposed, that means you have what's called a cold joint and you didn't get the pad hot enough for the solder to stick to it. That means you're going to have to go through and try and heat it up again to make sure you can get the solder to flow correctly to where you want it to. And like I said, leaving the soldering tip onto the pad and switch pin after you remove the solder will help prevent cold joints as well. Doesn't need to be for super long, but it just needs to be for a couple seconds, just again to help prevent that cold joint, because you still have a little more heat on there, so you make sure that pad gets fully heated up. It gives it the time to heat the pad up the rest of the way, and it gives it time to flow around the entire pad to make sure everything is nice and even. Every once in a while when I'm soldering, I like to go through and double check my joints just to make sure everything looks good with them. It's better to see any spots where you need a little more or to reflow it a little better in case you have a cold joint while you're going through, instead of like at the end when you've finished. I'll usually go through after a row and double check them. I'll usually do a row and then double check that row when I'm done. And a few best practices is to always have a little fan at your station when you're soldering. Solder does contain some toxic chemicals. You don't want to be continuously breathing this shit in. It could be bad for your health. So again, as I mentioned, if anyone has any questions about soldering while I'm doing this, please feel free to ask. I am good to answer any questions about soldering. Oh, and just because I want to make sure, just in case I didn't mention it, when you are pushing the tip of the soldering iron onto the board, you want to make sure you're applying it to both the switch pin and the pad evenly-ish. You want to get both those heated up, so you don't want to just push it on the pad or just push it on the switch pin. That's how you're going to get bad joints. You want to make sure you're heating up both the pad and the switch pin so that the solder adheres to both of them. Because remember, that's the whole point of the soldering, is we have to complete the connection between the pad and the switch pin. That's what this solder is doing, it's completing that connection. When you have a hot swap board, it's already soldered to the pins, the hot swap sockets or the Milmax sockets. They're already soldered to the pads, so there's stuff inside of it that basically helps finish that connection. That's why you can bend pins, because the pins have to fit tightly into the hot swap socket in order to complete that connection. And like I said, this brass ball of brass over here is just a maintenance item, basically. It's to make sure our soldering iron tip stays nice and clean and doesn't get damaged, because you don't want to have to continuously replace these. You want your soldering iron tip to last as long as possible, and to get that to happen, you need to clean it off every once in a while. That wasn't quite a cold joint, but I did put a little too much solder on that one. That was onto the soldering iron, not the switch pad, which is what you want to prevent. You don't want to do that. That can give you a badly soldered joint. There you go, fixed it. Now make sure, as I mentioned, you're pushing the solder onto the pad at an angle. That way we're melting the solder to the pad and not to the tip of the iron. Because melting the solder to the tip of the iron doesn't do us a whole lot of good. It'll end up making you have to hold the iron on there longer than you want to make sure all the solder transfers to the pin and pad. And I'm not going to say you have to be fearful about how long you hold the iron to the pad, but you definitely don't want to hold it on there too long. That's how you can damage the PCB. Or burn your solder. If you start burning your solder, that means you're soldering at too high a temperature. You're going to need to lower the temperature. And that's one of the reasons I solder at 350. The solder should melt pretty quickly at 350. So that gives you enough time to get the pad heated up quickly enough, but you're not applying too much heat to the pad. So again, you apply too much heat and too long, to the pad, and you can damage it. But again, that would require a lot of heat in a very long time, because I have never damaged a pad, and I have had to hold my iron to some switches longer than I would like because the desoldering sucked. I would honestly say that's going to be more of a concern if you're desoldering something than if you're soldering something. And the only other thing you want to make sure you're careful about is not pressing the iron, soldering iron against the diodes. So there are little black diodes by each switch pin, or I guess not by each pin, but by each location for the switches on the back of the PCB. Each switch will have a diode that functions. Or makes it function, sorry. Trying to do two things at the same time. Those diodes are very important, and you don't want to accidentally put too much solder on to where the solder is touching the pad and the diode, and you don't want to accidentally melt the solder that's holding the diode in. So that's just something you also want to make sure you're careful about. Because some PCBs, the diodes can get a little close to the switch pins. Others you have a little more room to work with. It just depends on the design of the PCB. So on those, you just have to make sure you hold the soldering iron at a good angle that you're not accidentally touching the diode. The parts that can get the trickiest is sometimes on the bottom row or near the USB ports, or where there's a lot of extra stuff, like up here. There's a lot of stuff up here, and so there's a lot less room for the diodes and everything to go. Okay. So let's go ahead and test this real quick in VIA. Make sure everything's good. And then we'll solder the encoder. So once you're done soldering, it's always good to pop open VIA and press in every key on the key tester to make sure everything is kosher. Make sure you didn't miss any joints. All right. Those holes are just because this layout is super weird on VIA. I don't understand it. But everything there is kosher. So that means it's time to do the encoder knob. So for this guy, let me double check the build guide here real fast. All right. So there. Okay. There we go. Encoder knob's installed. Just press it in there, make sure all the pins are sticking out. Turn this guy back on, and then we have 3 pins on one side and 2 pins on the other. So we'll just solder those guys in. Don't need to apply too much solder. Yeah, looks good to me. So let's test it just to make sure. Yep. Cool. Excellent. All right. So the soldering is all done. We can turn our soldering iron off by unplugging it. And now I need to go wash up. So I will be back in a couple minutes and we will get the rest of the build done and the keycaps installed. All right. I am back and we are good to get to assembling the case. So let me check out the build guide real quick on the case assembly. All right. Let's grab out the case. Comes wrapped in a nice cloth for protection. This should be cooled off enough to put away. I always like to let my soldering iron cool off all the way before I throw it in my drawer, just so it doesn't catch anything on fire. All right. Here is our case. Let's go and dump all this stuff out. Got our bump-ons. Let's go and install those real quick. Feet. All right, got a little feet installed. Let's go and take the case apart. So this is a top mount board, but it's meant to be burger mounted. So we have these O-rings here for when we mount a plate. So we will put an O-ring on basically each side of the screw. To help give it a little bit of flex. Not much. It's not really going to have a ton of flex, but it's going to prevent a super stiff typing feel. It's going to give it a little bit better feel. All right, that one should be. Let's go make sure this one's all the way out. A little farther on. Yep, there we go. Go. Some of these screw holes are very deep, so it's hard to make sure that you have the screw all the way undone. Go. I don't think the bits for my wow stick will fit all the way down into some of these deeper holes, so we're just going to use this guy for all of them. Theoretically could get away with using my wow stick for these bottom four, but since I need this for the other four, I may as well just use it for all of them. All right, last screw. We just have the four that are hiding. We'll just turn the bottom upside down to dump those out carefully. Go. Two, three, and four. Perfect. Oops, that one didn't come all the way out. There we go. 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. Put the top case up here. And then I will get the bit for the plate. We will go and use the wow stick for this part. So we'll look for a bit that fits these guys. It's a little small. Should be this guy then. Yep, that looks like the right guy. We'll grab the other one just to be safe. Wait, so that should be 1.5. So that's the 2 sizes we have. Start with the 1.5, and if the 1.5 isn't working very well, we will just go to the 1.3. But this looks good. Perfect. So a lot of mounting positions on this plate. I think there's 12. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. 12 screws for the plate. Like I said, this is a top mount that's meant to be burger mounted. So we'll get to see how that exactly works. Whew, startled me. Thank you, Keybweb. Thank you for the follow. My volume is a very high set right now, so that was a little startling. My apologies. Let me turn down my headset volume a little here, so it's not screaming in my ears. Thank you for the follow, though. How are you doing today? We are currently in the process of building the Sat75. We have soldered the PCB together. We are just getting ready to install that assembly into the case. Go. All right, so we got all the screws done. So let's get the O-rings. And my tweezers, which will make this process a little easier. There we go. Just go and dump these O-rings out. That should be enough. Alright. So there's little indents for the O-rings on the case. We're just going to put those O-rings right there. They're not deep indentations, but they're deep enough to allow the O-ring to kind of cradle in there, so that when you put the plate on, it doesn't just fall off. Gotcha. Well, thank you for stopping by. Chores are always fun. I hate the having to do chores. Takes precious time away from doing keyboard things. I will say placing these O-rings is a little less time consuming than gaskets on the gasket mount board. That's kind of nice because they have the little cradle. I remember trying to do a simple little O-ring mod to Tofu's. That's actually really annoying because you have to get the plate and PCB assembly to sit just right. Otherwise, the O-rings will just fall right off. These having the little indent is really nice. All right, so let's go ahead and move all these O-rings out of our way. I'll have to put some on the screws next, but let's go and get the plate in. All right. Perfect. Cool. So let's go ahead and do the for the plate mount or ring mount, a plateless. Ah, yeah. There you go. I've done a few of these burger mount style before, and the two I've done are this one so far. I've been going with this guy, and then we got the like the Canon Keys Savage65 I did, which was super nice and easy. Go. Because they do a good job of making sure there's a little bit of room for these O-rings to sit. A slight indent, not too big of an indent, otherwise they're not going to have as much effect, but they make sure there's a nice little indent there. Oop. Looks like that top left one fell off. O-ring did. Top right over there came off. Let's go ahead and move those. See if we can use the tweezers to move those back. Go. Got that one back. Let's see if we can get this one to move back. That one's gonna be the tricky one, I think. Let's do this. Let's get a screw placed in over here, just to give us a little more stability on the plate and PCB assembly. Go. That should give us a little more stability to get over here and try and move that guy back. Hopefully there's enough room to get in there. If not, we'll just undo those two screws and call it good. Fix it like that. Yep, that's what it looks like we're gonna have to do. Just undo those two screws real quick and we'll try it again. Can happen when you're doing this type of mounting. Super easy for the O-ring to just fall off. So we'll just take this, move it, and do it one more time. That back. Going back. Go. Oh, those two runes came off. That one came off with the PCB plate, so we'll just take those off and replace them as well. Go. There we go. So now we will try again. Go. So the only thing that makes it difficult is if you have the plate come off at all, because the O-rings like to stick to the plate. So we'll do it like that. We got them all. Put those two back. Those in there. What really makes it the most difficult, honestly, is the encoder knob. Because the encoder knob adds a little bit of height to the side, so the top housing, the top case just wants to kind of slide off because it's in, on the left side at least, because it's at a little higher knob is trying to push it off. So that's why we're going to hold it like this and get these two screws in. There we go. And from there we should be good. Get the right side on, secure it, and we'll be kosher. Nice and easy. Then we'll just prep the rest of the screws now. Now that we don't have to worry too much about the PCB plate being forced up by the encoder knob. So once we have the sides secured, it'll stay there pretty well. All right. And then I like to screw it in just until you see the O-ring start to compress a little bit, and that's when you stop. You don't want to screw in too tightly. Otherwise, you basically make the O-ring pointless if you compress it too much. Alright, where'd the screw go? Let's grab that real quick. All right, I'll be right back. I need to grab that screw real quick. All right, found the screw. It was hiding by my keycaps. Perfect. Perfect. And last one. I really hate that my WoW stick is not keeping its magnetism. Things fall off of it way too easy. Just really getting annoying. There we go. All right. What's up, Kachow? So we just finished putting these little O-rings onto the screws and mounting the plate PCB to the top case, because this is a top mount. So everything mounts to the top of the case. Voila. Look at that. All right, so next we put the bottom case back on. Line that up. Get that pushed on there. Sides of these O-rings. Oh, I don't know what size they are. They just come with the boards, so I could look at the parts list and probably tell you. Theoretically, it should have the size of the O-rings on the part list, but they basically are what just came with the board. They're pretty small. They're basically tight enough that they fit on the screw and stay. They don't slip down the screw at all. Any bigger and they're not going to really do their function correctly if they're too big. So they're not going to really do their part if they're too big. So they're basically the size of the screw. Let's see if the parts list says. It should theoretically, but it might not. Yeah, I don't think it says on the parts list. Let's look at their FAQ. Usually tells you on the build guide what size everything is. Contents, parts. So, resources. Here we go. Yeah, so Kachow, yeah, I do keyboard commissions. So right now, I'm not doing any until April. I have to close mine for a while because my wife and I are moving. But once I open them back up in April, yes, I will be able to do one for you. And KeyWeb, this is what the build guide says. Are the size. So they're mount O-ring 70A. That's the part. The second thing, the S.100X002. That's the part number, and 1 millimeter. Those are the O-rings used. Yeah, do exclamation mark. Should be exclamation mark build service. That'll give you a link to a Google form that will give you all the information about the build service. The Google form isn't taking any responses, like I mentioned at the moment, because I have closed it. Yep, like I said, I do have to close it for a few. Like I said, April 1st is when I will reopen it, and you'll be able to do submissions again. I don't want to be taking submissions and stuff while my wife and I are moving, because we are moving from the east coast of the US to the west coast of the US, so I don't want to be having people's boards and things getting lost potentially or whatever in the transition. So, and there we go. That is all put together. Let's get the little knob on here. Does it not have the little screw? Is it in there? Where's the little screw for that? I don't see it in here, is there? On there. I don't see it in here anywhere, is it? Oh, it's at the bottom. It's right here. There it should be. There it is. It's hiding. Yeah, it is quite the move. It is quite the move, not gonna lie. We're moving middle of next month, so that's why I'm closing the commissions from now until April. So we have time to get settled in and whatnot, and then I'll reopen them. Go. Go and get this a little farther in before we... There we go, that should be good. Don't have to screw it in too much. See, can we use the wow stick for this? That would be nice. Yes, we can. Sweet. Perfect. Excellent. Use the wow stick for that, make life easier. All right. And now it's time to get keycaps on. But yeah, so my wife and I moved to the East Coast in 2018. So I got a job out here, and we originally came from the West Coast, and so now we want to move back now that I can basically work from home. Company's basically allowing me to work from home if I want to move, so I will be moving. They don't mind if I work from pretty much anywhere in the US, so we want to go back home to where our family live. so we can be closer to family. All right. So let's get the keycaps out, shall we? I think for now we're just going to use both of these guys over here. Look at that, it's got a little bit of flex. It's not the stiffest thing in the world. Nice. All right, let's make sure it's not having any issues with the bottom, because there are some places this can short. I just want to make sure it's not. Everything's looking good. Not seeing any shorts, so we should be good. Like I said, this there is a spot where you have to apply a little bit of conductive foam on the bottom so it does not short. And if that foam does compress a little bit, and if it touches any of the components around it, it can short out there as well. But it looks like we are good. Sometimes you have to trim it depending on how you place it. We looked like we are good. There's no shorting happening. But we'll really get to know when we take it for like a typing test in a spin. But let's get this out. So these are the keycaps we are using. This is NicePBT Fuji. It's based on the set GMK Fuji, so it looks really nice. It'll go really well with the white case. Those stabs are quiet. That is really quiet. It's almost too quiet. It's not mushy. Almost too quiet. That sounds pretty good. All right, we'll start with these guys, top row. All right. Really excited for getting to hear how this sounds, because this is a half plate. For anyone that may be joining just now, we are using an FR4 half plate. So the plate basically only exists around the modifiers and the function row. The middle portion where the alphas are, there is no plate essentially. So we're getting just the raw plateless sound in the alphas. And this is my first time using a half plate, so I'm very intrigued by this. Hopefully these alphas are all flush. Might have to go through and fix some of the soldering on them, depending. Plateless can always be kind of a hit or miss on if everything is straight. And this is basically plateless on the alphas. Might need to do a little tuning to the left shift and the backspace. I did hear a tiny bit of rattle, so I might have to go through and tune those with a syringe. We will see once we get all these keycaps on whether we need to do that or not. Actually, the alphas are looking pretty good. Even for basically being plateless, they look pretty straight. That's nice. It's very nice. I was thinking of using NicePBT No L for this, anyone that's familiar with that set, but I wanted to wait till I get a few more things in, so we might use that for a second build of this. And this just dropped on Monday, so it got here early enough to use, so that's pretty cool. So I figured we will just use this guy for this build. Let's go with this guy up here. We will go with, I want the pink spacebar for sure. We'll use the pink spacebar. If I can get it on there. That fits kind of tightly. It's okay. It should be on there all the way. Ah, there it is. All right, that's our enter. So we have these two we'll use. This guy here. And let's go with, take this guy off. I want to use the control for that. There. Then system and control over here. That's what I like to generally do. Place the novelties in the spot of the alt. All right, then we need from here, our small shift should be here. Yes, here it is. Right shift and our stepped caps. Oh, that one looks like it could be a little, the caps lock looks like it could be altered a little bit. It's a little crooked, not too bad, but I can definitely see it a little crooked. Let's go. Need our arrows. What's up, Fuzzinator? Thank you for the follow. How are you doing? We are currently just getting these keycaps put on here. Go end. Page up. Thank you. These are NicePBT Fuji. Page down here. That should, I think that might not be the correct row profiles, but we'll fix it later if it's not. These keycaps just released, if you're not familiar with them, earlier this week. They sold out pretty quickly, so I was happy to be able to snag some. So. Go. Actually, yeah, I like that guy. You know what? Let's go with that guy instead. Let's go with that guy up there for the accent. I like that. And we'll use, I think we're going to go ahead and use the pink F5 through F8 as well. Yep, that was the pun I was going off of with the stream title. Very satisfying build. Yeah, this knob goes really well with the white. I was super impressed with the knob color, and it kind of fits in with the keycaps a bit too, I feel like. Which is always gonna be nice when the knob can fit in with the keycaps as well. And we'll get a good booty shot once we're all done here as well. Get a good shot of that booty. Alright, let me go ahead and close these up. Get these put away real quick, just so they're out of the way. Alright, I want to listen to the stabs one more time to see if we need any tuning. That sounds good. Backspace does. Left shift sounds good. I think the left side of spacebar could use a little. So let me get my keycap puller. Backspace could use a little tuning. And spacebar could use a little. Man, that spacebar is tight. Man, that fits tight. There we go. Definitely a tight fit on that spacebar. Alright, so let's get the syringe out with some lube and tune these up a little bit. For anyone wondering exactly what I'm doing, I'm basically just taking a syringe filled with Krytox 205 and injecting a little bit of lube into the wire hole. On that. Alright, that should be better. You don't want to push too much lube into it, but there we go. Sounds good. And we'll get the spacebar back on. All right, that sounds good. All right. Let's go ahead and do a sound test this bad boy. And before we do that, quick shot of the booty. Nice, good shot of this booty. Love the brass weight down here and the little design they got going on. Super sexy. All right. Get this bad boy plugged in. On the right. Now, one thing I need to remember real quick. Let's take a quick peek. Where is it? I don't remember how to change the OLED. I have to look into that again. I thought it was on the FAQ, but it doesn't look like it is. There we go. Function and knob press. That's how we do it. All right, let's open VIA real quick to make sure we have a function key. Let's open VIA, make sure we have a function key. I want to set function, I think, to the right control since I never used that guy. Let's open up VIA on the screen real quick. There we go. So for this, we need to change that guy. So that needs to be MO1. For backspace, we need to change this guy. So it needs to be backspace. Make sure all our things are good. That's good. Left shift's good. The control window alt space is good. Shift enter is good. Okay, so let's try it. Haha, there we go. There we go. That's what we want. Don't know if you can see it, but that's what we're going with. Nope. Yep. If you don't do that, there we go. All right, so let's do it again. Can't hold it up to the screen while the thing is plugged in because it'll torque the cord at a weird angle, but if you can see it, it is a little dog. That's what we're going with. We are not using the Canon Keys firmware, we're using a modified firmware. Should also have how do you get to it? It might be, he said it's a, what press is it? Feature list. Bongo cam mode, pets mode. F23 and F24, which, let's go here. How do you set an F23 and F24? That I don't know how to do. F13, 15, 16. Ah, there they are. They're under special. F23, F24. Perfect. Let's go with Kirby. Let's go with the little Kirby. What's up, Dutch Master? How's it going? You're just in time to listen to the Sat75 we just built. Welcome over. How you doing today? Let me go to my elements real quick. The command. For anyone not following, make sure to give Dutch Master a follow. Does keyboard content, pretty good keyboard content. All right, so let me get set up and we'll do a quick sound test of this bad boy. I'm doing pretty good, Dutch Master. Thanks for asking. Thank you for asking. All right, let's get the music down. You are going to hear some background noise because I'm going to turn my noise gate off. And so there will be some background noise. All right, so this is a Sat75. It is built with an FR4 half plate from HypeKeyboards, and we have Marshmallow switches in it. And then we have the NicePBT Fuji keycaps from Canon Keys. Let's do one more quick one. Hopefully you guys can hear it pretty well. Let's get this down just a hair more. And then the knob press. All right, so that is the Sat75. I really like this half plate. It has a nice little poppy sound to it. I do like the Marshmallow switches. These are pretty fancy. Oops. Let's go back to Kirby. Some pretty cool. I don't know if you guys can see. I can try and zoom in. If not, can you guys see the OLED screen? If not, I can zoom in a little bit, or try to at least. But it's got some pretty cool functions. This is Kirby, so we can, when we're typing, he will waddle. Or at least I think he should move. Yeah, he will jump up and down and move a little bit. When you press space, he will jump, and when you're typing, he will move. And then on caps lock, he will inhale. He will not jump, of course, but I think he will still move. Yep, he will waddle when he's inhaling. Looks like he flaps his ears when you press the delete key. And then nothing happens on shift when he's large, I believe. And then if you press caps lock, he will go back to normal. He'll like shoot out a little thing and go back to normal. When you hold control, he will kind of squish. And then on the dog will crouch when you control. And then of course it will walk and then run when you're typing. It will jump when you press space. And it will bark while you have caps lock on. This is honestly one of my favorite things about this keyboard. This firmware is a special firmware edited by someone from Discord, a dude from Discord. Shout out to him for making all these modes on here. The default one just has, I think, the little matrix on it. This guy has this little thing on there normally. So we'll tell you when caps is on and everything. But he's gone and did the bongo cat, which does have a words per minute on there, which is pretty cool. WPM counter, time on it, and then the bongo cat. It has a caps lock indicator where bongo cat will slam both arms down at the same time if caps lock's on. Yeah. Pretty sweet little feature of this keyboard that I really like. Myself, I am going to try and work on having like a boot sequence when you plug the keyboard in. I don't know if it's how possible it's going to be, but I'm going to try and edit this to have text scroll across basically saying Regalia Keybs when you plug it in. Not sure how well that's going to work, but that's something I'm going to attempt to do soon. So that's going to be really cool if I can get that to work. All right. So like I said, that is all I have for today. We have successfully built this keyboard. Nice Sat75. It's a beautiful looking keyboard with this NicePBT Fuji on it. Really like these Marshmallows. The half plate has a nice little poppy sound on the alphas. And I appreciate everyone stopping by for the stream. It's been a slightly longer one than normal on Saturdays, but this was a little more involved build since we had to solder the OLED and the knob on. So I appreciate everyone stopping by. I'll be back. I'll probably do a special stream on Monday, either a board build or some gaming. Not sure which. We'll see. Follow me on Twitter if you want to know. I will post an update tomorrow for the next week's stream schedule. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure to do that. Exclamation mark socials should bring up, or I guess I did change it, so it'll be exclamation mark Twitter to get my Twitter. Other than that, I'm going to get to work on a sound test for YouTube on this for tomorrow, and I will see everyone on the next stream. Hope everyone enjoyed the content and hope to see you guys next time. Have a great weekend.